Hi, it's Mark Evans, and you're listening to Marketing Spark. For the past year, I've mostly interviewed marketers about B2B SaaS marketing. They've offered amazing insight, and I've learned a ton along the way. But going forward, I'm going to shift the focus of the podcast. While marketing will still be part of the mix, a big part of the mix, I'm looking to interview B2B SaaS executives and entrepreneurs about their journeys. And today I'm talking to Alper Cakir, the CEO of Xtensio. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Let's start with Xtensio's origin story. How did the company start? What was the inspiration for it?
So actually, your audience and past experience with this podcast is in line with our past as well. We were originally an agency. We were not particularly a marketing agency. We were more of a UX and UI agency, but we were working with a lot of companies who were trying to go to market. So they need to understand really all the details of their own business so that they could get the most impact out of the gate. So working with these companies, we were in service business for a couple of years. We realized that we were actually starting really with all the marketing basics. Like, who is the ideal persona for you guys? Who is, how do you define your value proposition? What is your brand positioning? For those, we were doing all these exercises. And then at some point we said, you know what, let's build something that helps us do these things for our clients. And that was basically the MVP for us. And then the initial product was a couple of templates: a user persona, a landing page, a pitch deck, and I think it was a lean canvas. So those were the initial templates or documents or projects we put on Xtensio. And when there was an interest, first we were basically trying to solve our problem, helping these clients, which became the MVP for the product. When we saw the interest, we started putting more and more effort into Xtensio, and eventually Xtensio took over, and that became our main focus.
Before we go forward, one thing I was remiss in the introduction was telling people exactly what Xtensio does. So maybe you can do that for me.
Xtensio is a collaboration platform for business communications and strategy. So we help companies make better cases internally or externally through collateral. So it's essentially a document builder with a built-in template base that enables marketers, salespeople, entrepreneurs, operations, HR, you name it. We're very horizontal at this point. We're basically a platform where people create better business content.
You start off as a service company. You feel this pain or this need or a problem you need to solve. So you start developing these templates. How did you start to attract your first customers and users? Was it clients of yours? Was it word of mouth? How did those first customers come on board?
So the first iteration, we first realized that there was interest around one particular template first, and it was the user persona. This was now it's a more common, but when we started 5-6 years ago, it wasn't. So, and people were trying to really understand what the user persona is, how they should use it, how should they go about it. So the initial version that we did was just a PDF. It wasn't even a product. It was some PDF we put on Behance and our own website, and then we put together a how-to guide along with it on our website. And then we started seeing that there's interest in this. And so then when we first launched the product, which was about 5 years ago, it didn't do even a fraction of what it does now. But it was just a page builder, and we clearly saw from the beginning that we needed to give it a purpose. So just having a page builder for documents was not good enough at that point for people. So the templates that we already built in PDF for user persona became the first template we also built on Xtensio, and that match started driving people. So the initial one, we had our own clients and customers that wanted to use it. So that was good interest. Then anybody who we put basically a link on the same Behance post on our website saying, hey, now there's an interactive version of this, go try it. and we started seeing adoption through there. And then when we in a launch, we went to the usual places like Product Hunt, etc. And like we were also seeing people just posting in places like Reddit, etc. And then we were getting also traffic from those resources as well. So it was all inbound pretty much. So like we created something that people needed, and we put it in a couple of places and hoped for the best, and it works.
Yeah, a lot of companies evolve from services to product and they launch something, they put it out there and it's a hit or it's a miss. And I'm curious about when you knew. What was that moment when you knew that Xtensio, this product that you had launched, had evolved from a concept or something that was interesting to a going concern to the point where you knew this was a business, this knew that you knew that you're going to shift the focus of Xtensio from services to product? Was there a moment in time? Did something happen that made you realize, okay, this is a business now, and this is how we're going to move forward?
We were lucky to have the agency running, because when you're doing that and have a side project, there's less stress. So like, we didn't have investors. To this day, we're still bootstrapped. So like we were able to build that product to a point where it was really valuable for people. And when we saw that it got sticky for some people, and now looking back, we've seen that those are the people, well, these people need to create something that looks professional. They need to create something that is impactful. They need to create something on brand, and they're not able to do it. So we realized that our competition was not other tools. So like these were not people like who would go do it on Photoshop or Illustrator. These were the people who would hire designers. So our competition was mostly actually other design outlets.
Mm-hmm.
So when we realized that, like then building the additional templates to help that group of people helped us bring more people in. And then like we started building a lot of analytics around the product where we see that usage. And the moment when we launched on Product Hunt, it was the most popular, second most popular for that day. So that was, that was something there. But again, like it's just, a lot of the times data shows you something, but it doesn't reveal the whole story. So data is really good for growing something, but it's not great for innovating something. So like you take the data and you're inspired by it. So like we said, you know what? Actually, what we built can be utilized for these things as well. So we started building all these additional features and also like the moment you start putting something out there, you start getting feedback or lack of feedback, which are
Right.
both good in terms of steering your vision. And it's a journey. So like we started seeing the interest once we saw traffic coming from Reddit, when we start seeing traffic coming from Product Hunt, when we started seeing more people, instead of using the PDF version, using this, when we started seeing them coming back for doing other stuff, and when we started seeing feedback they were getting, saying, oh, you know what, it would be great if we could do this as well on your product. Like that was the moment, or that was the phase where we said, you know what, we should put more effort into this. And having the agency helped us have a smoother, safer transition.
Here's a softball question, or perhaps a loaded question, or perhaps a really tough question to answer. When you look back over the last 5 to 6 years, the journey that Xtensio has been on, what do you think the keys are to its success? And I ask that because many, many startups fail because there's no need for the product. So when you look back at your own journey, is it because it was the right product at the right time? Is it because of the insight that you gained along the way? Was it because you were creating something new and different? Like, what are some of the key elements that you can attribute to the success that you've had?
A lot of the times, companies are looking for that silver bullet. And sometimes some of them are really lucky. They get that silver bullet early on. For us, it was really everything you just mentioned. And on top of that, the encapsulating concept, I think, is persistent. So like we were seeing things that worked, seeing things that didn't work. So we were constantly evolving to this day. Like we're still agile. So every 2 weeks, like there's a new push, and like there's a feature that is being improved, a positioning that's being changed, a new piece of content that's being launched. We're a small team, but like we are constantly trying to improve things. So being persistent about evolving has been helpful for us, and that evolution is driven by couple of things. One, the users, right? So like they tell us a lot now, again, with their data, with their feedback, or with lack of their data and feedback. So we use that to determine how we should steer this ship. And also, like we are artists at heart as well. So we also try to look at, the world out there and say, like, what, like we can do better, or we can do this in a different way. So we, it wasn't the shortest path that we took. It was really a wind road. But the journey, I think one of the things that helped us was not raising funds from a VC, because like then then we would have less time. Then we would be making promises that would be hard to keep.
Mm-hmm.
So like we were able to control our destiny a little bit better, and be a little bit more flexible throughout this time because we were bootstrapped.
So you launch something that people like using. It's a product that is sticky. You're seeing inbound demand for it. It's obvious that this is a business that you could move forward with. When did you realize that marketing needed to be part of the mix? And what were the first moves that you made from a marketing perspective? Like, what were the first strategic or tactical decisions that you made to actually get marketing to be part of the DNA of the company?
From the beginning. But
From
when
the
you say
beginning.
marketing, yeah, like it wasn't in a very conventional marketing. It was more about, like this was the time where inbound was becoming more popular, and everybody started hating banners and inbound emails and all that stuff more and more, obviously. And personally, that wasn't in line with who I am. Like I really wanted to provide something that is valuable, still market it in the right places or put it in front of the right people, and then hope that they will use it, and then that's going to turn into an avalanche, right? So when we first launched, one, content was from the get-go a big piece of Xtensio's journey. Like, I mean, we launched it with pretty much with no templates, and nothing happened the first couple of weeks. Then when we started releasing those templates, that was the time where we started seeing interest, because like now all of a sudden it ties into a more specific need. Like I'm trying to do better marketing, or I'm trying to launch this product, I'm trying to raise funds for my startup. All those things, all those groups had a better need for a product like Xtensio. And also from the beginning, we also built some referral loops into the product as well. So like you would sign up, and then you would invite people, and they would, at that point, about 25% of our own users were coming through other users' referrals. Mm-hmm. So like that, all that thing. And again, like we for the first year, we were not making any money from this, or maybe like for the first year and a half. It was more about, here's a product, use it, give us feedback, we'll evolve it, we'll improve it. And that usage eventually was like, okay, now like we can start monetizing this thing.
One of the interesting things when it comes to entrepreneurs and marketing is many of them start with product. It's all about the product. They're building a better mousetrap because they have identified a problem, or they just see an opportunity. Next is sales. The entrepreneur becomes the head of product, but they also become the head of sales. And eventually they look towards marketing as being a growth catalyst. In some cases, it's almost a sort of a necessary evil, as opposed to something they want to do. But it sounds like Xtensio really saw marketing as a key part of how the company moved forward. Now, not have been traditional marketing. I mean, you were doing some content marketing, but also some user marketing. Did you think about marketing as something, as a siloed activity, or was it just something that came naturally, or something that was just part of growing the community and growing the business over time?
Mm-hmm. So we were, again, like the agency being a consultancy for startups mostly at that point. We had a really clear understanding of everything you just mentioned. Like we were also already telling all these clients, look, it's not about the product, it's not about sales. We need to build something that is useful for people. We need to build it at a time where they know that they need it, or we will need to educate them. It's going to be tough, how do we differentiate you? All those things were built into our DNA, even if we're just doing UX or UI, with maybe like just an onboarding screen or something for an app. It was all about like, are we answering the right questions for the users? And we always believed in this concept. every startup or every business stands on 3 feet. So there's a problem, there's a group that has that problem, and there's a storytelling that makes these two connect together.
Mm-hmm.
So if one of these are lacking, so like, which may be like, like the problem is not valid, or there's nobody with that problem, or like you're not doing a good job telling that story, so that the person with the problem is not interested or not aware of your solution. From the beginning, this was built into our DNA. We knew that, like we had to build something that targets the problem and then makes a story that would be valuable for the person who has that problem. And in our case, that was the startup who was trying to build a brand. That was the company who was trying to streamline communications internally. That was the VC firm that was trying to source better startups, whatever it is. Like a lot of the products are way easier to explain. We do this on your warehouse and your data becomes like this. It's great. So like it's easier to market as well. One of the ambitions of Xtensio is it's very horizontal. Like, so like you can use it for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So like for that reason, our marketing is very bucketed. So like when we talk to an agency, we say certain things because the value we bring for them is very different than the value we bring for, let's say, for a startup. One is maybe for about working better with clients and building their brand. Maybe the other one is like about going to market or raising funds. So like it's, but the core is, like all these groups, you look at the personas again and say like, okay, this group is getting this value. And a lot of the times, this was also a lesson that we learned along the way. It's not about fixing your problems. It's really about finding your strengths and doubling down on them more than anything else. So in our case, like we are not trying to be an alternative to PowerPoint. Like they have a lot of powerful, or Prezi, or anything out there. They have a lot of powerful features. We're not going to be building all those, because if we do, then we would be hurting ourselves. Instead, what are the areas that we're more successful at? Like making it simple, providing a starting point for these people, making it so simple that there's pretty much no learning curve. You can just go in there, get what you need in a couple of minutes.
Quick question: does Xtensio have marketing people on board?
No, nobody dedicated. So like we have customer success and product and myself. And then we work with, when we realize that, this inbound is going to be the main course of action for our marketing, obviously we started putting more effort into, making sure that Google likes us through SEO. So like when we hire, let's say, a web person, we make sure that they're not only good with code, but they understand all the basics of SEO. And throughout time, like I got better at, content and SEO and like making the research, keywords and all that stuff. But no, at this point, there's nobody who's solely responsible about marketing.
So what kind of marketing does Xtensio do, and who does it? Is it all internal? Do you use freelancers and contractors?
So the content gets created by us. And, like we use interns, we use seasonal contractors, where we say, okay, now like we're building additional content. Right now, Xtensio is about a little bit over 50 instructional templates and about 100 editable examples. And for all of these, we have landing pages and how-to guides as well. So all that content, brings up a couple of hundred pages on our website. That drives most of the traffic. And through good content, we get a lot of, so we also don't do SEO just to trick Google. It doesn't work. It's about really adding value. So we try to create multiple times better content than anything out there. For example, if you're building, let's say, a sales strategy document, then we go do the research, look at everything out there, and try to create something that really helps people perform better. And when that happens, we automatically start seeing this content going to places that we didn't even dream of. Like, sometimes government sites, mention us. Sometimes a lot of the universities mention us. And that has a lot of clouds that brings us even better positioning as well. So content creation is like just distributed inside the company.
What about other types of marketing? Are you any advertising? Do you go to conferences? Do you do webinars? Do you do ebooks? Or is it all simply about blog posts? I'm just curious about the portfolio or the arsenal that you're using.
We have an affiliate program, which, we set it up, I think it was 2 years ago. We're not really doing anything about it. People sign up and they refer Xtensio and they get 25% of the revenue for life. So if anybody's interested, you can just go to xtensio.com/affiliates, check out. And that has been one of the venues, but we don't buy any ads. We're not in conference this year, actually going to be in a couple of conferences, but I go to conferences to learn and network myself, but like Xtensio has not done any sponsorships. We didn't get into booths, none of those things. We haven't tried ads. That's something we may try next year. It's been mostly the content. Again, the advantage of being a content creation platform is you create the content in the platform. So
Right.
that's been one advantage that we have over just creating regular blog posts, which is like super saturated. We were doing that at the agency and it worked great, but this was like 2010.
Right.
So like now, like it's really hard to get attention because there's so much content out there.
Looking back, what are the biggest marketing lessons that you've learned along the way? Both good things that you've learned and some of the things that you've learned to avoid that simply doesn't work, or it's just not doesn't work for your company.
So like when you couple of years, like when you first start, there's no baggage. So you can just do something and then move on to the next thing. But over time, actually, we realize that every decision we make comes with a lot of the things that we need to support that we did in the past as well. Like we can't just, for example, just move on to another affiliate marketing platform because we got a couple of thousand people who are using that already. So like the change becomes a little bit harder as you mature. One of the things that we made is, I think, was not realizing the longer term of cost of things. For example, and I'm going to name this because like it's been a bad experience for us. Intercom. I see you're Intercom, using Intercom as well, which is great if you got let's say 1,000 people visiting and like doing something, and then you're sending messages. But at some point, like our free plan was bringing about like 17,000 people a month. And all of a sudden, Intercom's expense started exploding. So like that wasn't a decision that we thought a lot about when we first adopted the tool. And all of a sudden, like now all our campaigns are in there, our support is in there, like there's a knowledge base there, all the things they built. We were just taking them and like running with it because like it's the easier thing to do. But you need to be careful about your model versus the platform you use's model. Like in Intercom's case, for example, they're all about those user base, but like they're not really built for companies like us, where there's a freemium model where you would have like thousands of people use the platform, and so like that changing things and finding the better options that fits our business model was one of the challenges we went through.
As far as the marketing landscape right now, when you look at the fact that primarily your marketing is being driven by content, which drives inbound, you mentioned that content is becoming more crowded. It's harder to break through. How do you see the marketing landscape? As a B2B SaaS entrepreneur, what does the marketing landscape look like to you? Like, what do you see as some of the most interesting trends or things that you're going to explore in 2022 as you try to drive growth, bring new users onto the platform, or conversely, try to keep your users on the platform?
I think that, moving forward, there are a couple of things that is becoming more obvious. One, outbound is getting harder and harder and harder. So like we're a product-led growth company, and we like that. So like we're doubling down on that. So like making the product better, targeting the right audience, and being at the places that audience exists is our main focus. I get dozens of messages on LinkedIn. My email is, at this point, like I get a lot of inquiries from all sorts of places, and like I'm just going like marking them as spam, like deleting them. Like first sentence, I get it, like let's move on. So like my morning starts like that, and obviously like marketers are going to find other places now. Actually, like I get SMSs, I get cold calls, like it's annoying. It's going to get more annoying. And I don't want to be a part of that annoying part. I want to be on the good side of the story as much as I can. So like we're going to keep being on that side as much as we can. Some of the trends that I'm seeing moving forward is content is getting harder to get traffic with because everybody's trying it, but it doesn't mean that there's good content out there. There's going to be always good content, and that's going to be always performing. One of the main takeaways I've seen the last couple of years is we are all media companies. And I don't mean just the products or the companies. I mean also people as well. Like everybody's now a media company or a media personality, a media entity. What that means is, like people are going to need a reason to believe what you say versus somebody else's. And that doesn't happen, again, with just a couple of sentences you say. It happens over time. So the brand marketing is becoming more of a value in my mind through being a media company again. And like some of the things we see explode is obviously podcasts, right? So, and video became so accessible. It's, I think, just a psychological barrier for us. It's just a little bit harder to be on camera than, like just writing something that you can fix 20 times, do revisions. But having said that, the thing that performs, in my mind, most nowadays is vulnerability. Not being the perfect person out there, but being who you are with all the little errors and faults that you have. Like that's the brand, just embracing that and like being genuine. I think is going to be key moving forward for not only for people, but also for companies.
If there was one marketing channel or activity that Xtensio would embrace in 2022, what would that be?
We're definitely doubling down on content, mostly the kind of content that is unique to us, which is templates in our case. So like, again, like we want to make that library not bloated, but definitely more inclusive. So like that's why our focus is for the first 2 quarters of 2022. And then, like we are seeing a lot of potential again from video. We may go into that, and also stepping a little bit away from inbound through search, which has been the main bread and butter for Xtensio. We want to put more focus on the brand itself as well. So like we're actually doing a lot of partnerships, we're supporting the startup ecosystem, marketing ecosystem, sales ecosystem as much as we can through professional organizations, through meetups, through webinars, etc. So we want to be partnering with anybody who is doing anything in those fields and be a part of their journey and support them with our platform as much as possible, because we want to make sure that Xtensio is the communications and strategy platform for those groups.
Alper, this has been an excellent and inspiring conversation. Where can people learn more about you and Xtensio?
Xtensio.com, and then I'm sure you'll include all my links on LinkedIn, Twitter.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Spark. If you enjoyed the conversation, leave a review, subscribe via iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, and share via social media. To learn more about how I help B2B SaaS companies as a fractional CMO, strategic advisor, and coach, send an email to mark@marketingspark.co or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll talk to you soon.